Alright, welcome to Astronomy Lesson 3.3, Motions of the Moon. Hmm. Alright, so let's get started here with some common movements that we're going to deal with. So, first, revolution. So this is the moon orbiting the Earth. Uh, the moon rises in the east and sets in the west, just like the sun as well as our constellations. And the moon rises and sets 50 minutes later each day. So after your full moon, when you would have a waning gibbous, and then later a last quarter, and then a waning crescent, it's later and later in the evening, or depending on how you look at it, early in the morning. Rotation, so this is the moon rotating on its axis. And another cool feature that we'll discuss in a little bit is the same side of the moon is always facing the Earth. All right, uh, so let's talk about the moon's orbit. So, uh, what we have is something called the lunar calendar, and that's about 29 and a half days. So this is looking at the phases of the moon. And because of our location on Earth, let's see if I can draw this out. So let's say this is, let's do green for Earth. That's a really bad circle. I'm sorry, but this is Earth.
At this time, can we get students with the last name P, L through P to the auditorium for retakes? Thank you very much.
And this is the sun over here. Half of the moon will always be dark, right? Day and night, just like on Earth. So if we looked at it like this, right? Half of the Earth would be dark. The phases of the moon are going to be what we are seeing when we look out. So if we were over here, we wouldn't see the same phases as if we're here on Earth. So it's important to remember that what we're looking at is not necessarily what we're seeing from space. Okay, let's move on. So anyways, moon phases. So this is a calendar. It's from 2017. Hey, cool. This is showing all of the phases as it changes, going from full moon all the way back to new moon and everything in between. Alright, so let's talk about why we have these phases. So the moonlight is reflecting sunlight. So the major source of energy here on Earth or in our solar system is our sun, which is the nearest star to us. And the light that we see that's being reflected off the moon or other planets is coming from the sun. And half of that moon, again, is reflecting that light. The other half is dark, just like the Earth. The Earth has daytime and we have nighttime. And it's because we're on Earth that we are seeing different parts of this moon, this half lit phase. And that gives us our phases. So the moon phases are caused by seeing different parts of that lit up moon. It has nothing to do with Earth's shadow. Just strike that from your mind right now. No shadow. The only time we're going to deal with the shadow is when we talk about eclipses, which will come up. But for right now, don't even think about the Earth's shadow. It's scary place. All right. So what does all that mean? Half day, half night. All right. So if you think of this, these are our main phases here, starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then back to new moon. So that should go in order here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then back to 1. Right here, this is what we would see from space. So that's our space view feet. And then over here, that's our Earth view. Alright? So these phases on the outside, that's what we would see if we were standing out here. You know, obviously that, you know, stick figure is not to scale. And he has an extra arm, so that's neat. Otherwise, that's not what we're looking at. Alright, this shows our orbit. You know, so the moon orbiting here. This is the far side. Again, we're going to talk about the far side, not the dark side, the far side. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. These are the four main shapes. So we have our full moon, which is really half moon, right? Because the other half is dark. Here's our crescent, quarter. The reason it's called a quarter is because we're actually only seeing a quarter of the lit side of the moon, right? It's the half of a half. And then here's our gibbous, which is larger. Alright, some neat things here. What we have is some full moon names. So many cultures have different full moon names. This is just a short list of some of them. One of the things that came up last year was, or I guess late this year, was something called a snow moon. And people were going all about, they were like, oh my god, it's going to be a lunar eclipse and a snow moon at the same time. Oh my gosh, that's never going to happen. That's so crazy. Snow moon. Well, the only time we can have a lunar eclipse is when it's a full moon. And we have a snow moon every February. So if we were going to have a lunar eclipse in February, it would always be a snow moon. It's really not that uncommon, other than the fact that it's a lunar eclipse. The snow moon, who cares? That's just a made-up name that we gave to them. Not a big deal. You know, it could have easily been the corn moon, in which we were having a lunar eclipse. Alright, other names. Blue moon. That's a big one that gets us. Now, there's two definitions for a blue moon. I like the more modern definition, which says it's an additional full moon that we have in a calendar. So because our cycle of phases is 29.5 days, it's really rare to have two full moons in the same month. But before an error that occurred on Jeopardy back in the 80s, this right here was the definition about having a full moon, an additional full moon in a season. So, but there was a Jeopardy accident, and they had the answer wrong, and the person got it right and probably won a whole bunch of money, even though that wasn't necessarily correct. But since then, we kind of adapted that definition. Other different names. Supermoon. This is huge. Look how big the moon is. The moon doesn't change size. Moon is the same size as it's always been. There's nothing really super about it. However, it is closer in its orbit. So when something is closer, picture your hand far away and then up close, it appears larger. Right? It hasn't actually changed its size. Right? So just because it's super just means that it's a little bit closer. So it's what we call perigee. Apogee, it looks like this size, and this is the apparent size. It has not actually changed size whatsoever. Alright, stay tuned for eclipses, which is fun. My eyes! And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Thank you.